Hello, welcome to the video on simplifying trigonometric expressions. In this video, we're going to go through the prior knowledge and the steps to actually simplify trigonometric expressions, and then I'll go through and I'll do example one. The rest of the examples will be broken up into kind of other videos that you can watch in smaller chunks. So prior knowledge. The objective is to simplify trigonometric expressions. So what you have here is an expression, and one of the strategies we're going to use is factoring. So if I have this expression here, I want to factor this, I can go ahead, I can break down factors of negative 20 and say, okay, what factors of negative 20 will produce a difference or a summation of negative 1? And that would be 5 and 4. Okay, and I want the bigger value, right, to be negative. So x minus 5, x plus 4. Okay. So, then another idea that we need to have knowledge of is adding expressions. And here we have two rational expressions. And in order to add these, you have to have a common denominator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to ensure that they have a common denominator by multiplying by a ratio of 1. Okay, so I'm going to multiply top and bottom by x, which gives us x over x times x is x squared, plus, whoop, I don't want that, gives us over 3 plus x squared. And now I can add these two expressions to give us x plus 3 over x squared. Okay, so this would be your answer, your solution to this problem. And a common error or misconception here that students have is that they can reduce this x and this x, and that is not true. You have to be able to reduce both terms, right? So that would be your answer here. Okay, so here are the steps for simplifying a trigonometric expression. And these are just actually general strategies. The first one, you can substitute using identities. Okay, so we'll substitute if possible. Step 2 is to factor, and this example that I'll do right now demonstrates that. Step 3 is to distribute. Strategy 4 is to get a common denominator. Strategy 5 is to multiply by a ratio of 1, and we kind of saw this in our prior knowledge. So those are in the prior knowledge. And then step 6, rewrite in terms of sine and cosine, and I believe example 3 will have an example of this. So a common question comes up: how do I know if I'm done simplifying? And how you'll know if you're done is by looking at these three kind of stop signs. So the first one is the expression is written in terms of a single trigonometric function. So like if your answer is sine of x or cosine of x or tangent x, so on and so forth, that's one spot you would stop. Number 2, it says the expression does not involve any fraction forms. Okay, so again, if you have an example, something like 1 or something like cosine of x, right? There's no fractions. And then number 3, no more identities can be used to further simplify the expression. So if you kind of run out of tools in your tool bag, you know you're done. Okay, so that is kind of the skill portion of the lesson. So here we go. Here's our first example. We have sine of x minus sine of x times cosine squared x. And I told you guys that the first idea that we would use in this one is that we'll factor, similar to what we did in our prior knowledge. Notice that both of these terms share a sine of x here and here. So what I'm going to do is I'll factor that out. I'm going to remove the sine of x. So this is equal to sine of x times, now if I factor out sine of x from this term, this leaves me with 1, right? 1 times sine of x, that's sine of x. Minus, if I factor out sine of x, I'm left with cosine squared x. Okay, so I have factored that out. Now, the second step that we're going to use is our Pythagorean identity. And the Pythagorean identity that we're going to use is that sine squared x is equal to 1 minus cosine squared x. So this comes from our main Pythagorean identity, which is sine squared x plus cosine squared x is equal to 1. So all we did is manipulate this example, right? So I'm going to go ahead, I will substitute. Right, so this is step 2. Sine of x times sine squared x. Okay, so this is equal to sine of x times sine of x squared. Now, if I have sine of x times sine of x squared, this simplifies to sine x cubed, which is sine cubed of x. And this would be your answer. Okay, this is example 1, and in this example, we simplified a trigonometric expression, and we also went over the steps to simplify these expressions. Okay, further examples will follow in future videos.